Well, y'all, it's finally time to talk about Batman Caped Crusader. I've watched the entire show, and I have a lot of thoughts. Some good, some not so good. Some things I liked, some things I really didn't like. So this is Batman Caped Crusader. I already kind of talked about my thoughts on episode 1. I mostly was like, oh no, I might hate this show after watching episode 1. Wasn't sure how I felt about Alfred's look. I like that it's a period piece. I like that element of it, but I wasn't sure about what we were doing with the Penguin. It was weird because it felt like we had changed a lot of stuff, but then also we were trying to do this classic homage, and I just wasn't sure if it was working. I also initially was not a fan of Batman here. I felt like Batman felt a little too intense. I understood what they were doing with it, but I was just like, this isn't really my Batman. But I understand it's supposed to be a younger Batman. He doesn't really know where he's at yet. He's trying to find his place, and it's also a different period, you know? This is a harder time. Every character in this is a lot more intense. Everyone's really like a tough cookie, a tough customer. And while I think that's a cool idea, I was like, I don't really know if this works for me for Batman. But I did love the overall look of the show. I felt like it looked amazing, and I thought there were some cool ideas here. So it didn't turn me off enough to make me stop watching. I definitely continued. I watched episode 2, and I watched the whole series. Initially, I wasn't sure how I felt about Babs either. I warm up to her over time. But yeah, the whole episode 1 thing was just felt like I was going to take some time to get used to it. And I'm still, having now watched the entire show, I still don't think I like Penguin. However, we only saw Penguin at the beginning of the show. So in season 2, I feel like Penguin could come back and we could see a Penguin redemption here. We'll see what happens. I like Penguin. I need my Penguin fans to sound off in the comments though, because although I like Penguin, I'm not the most knowledgeable about Penguin, and I feel like my favorite version of Penguin is probably from Tim Burton's Batman. So that is the thing that is, I gotta figure out what's going on with that. So yeah, that Penguin is a very different vibe from the Penguin we get in this show, I would say. And, that's my favorite version. So, of course, I'm going to be like, this is a little weird. Overall, for the show, I would say the music has been amazing throughout, though. I really loved the music in this show throughout. In episode 1, I noticed that, and it continued throughout the series. I still feel like there's some weird chemistry between Babs and Bruce, but I think it could actually weirdly work here, even though I know we've been told it's not going to be happening here. And I didn't want it to happen, but it's weird because this is the time where they're like, don't worry, we're not doing that. But then at the same time, you're like, this is the one place where you maybe could do it and it would maybe be all right. But you're not doing it. It's a strange choice. But, Batman is Batman. And maybe everyone just loves Batman. Maybe that's the moral of the story. I love Batman. I don't think I'd date Batman, though. He's a lot. Overall, after episode 1, my main takeaway was that I loved the idea of a Batman who fails. I feel like that's just interesting to see him learning and realizing, oh, like this, I messed this up, I have to fix it, and him accepting those failures. I felt like that was cool, and that was something that really, I think, hooked me in episode 1, where I was really like, okay, I want to see where this is going. Unfortunately, there wasn't really enough character evolution overall, I think, in the show for Batman, but we'll talk about that a little bit more as we go in through the episodes. So episode 2 was way better for me. It was more of a mystery, and so I liked that element of it. I think overall, I like the idea of mysteries in general in the show. I think that's when it works best, when there's some intrigue, and it fits really well with, I think, the period as well. But what really got me hooked with Batman Caped Crusader, the moment when I was really like, oh man, I am here for this, oh no, it's happening, is of course when Catwoman arrived. I love Christina Ricci as Catwoman. I just feel like she voices the character so well. I love this classic version of Catwoman. The fact that we have Catwoman here who has her panther, and that's a whole thing, and that's just, it's not explained, it's just she has a panther. It's the fun homages to this era of comics that are sprinkled throughout the show, I think are really fun. And when the show wants to have fun, it's a good time. But with episode 3, I was really hooked with Catwoman. I loved her. And I just was so inspired that I was like, I need to add this to my list of cosplays to do. I need to be Catwoman. Yeah, I really loved it. The fact that we also had a Catmobile, I mean, my dreams, my classic Catwoman dreams were coming true here. There are times where I feel like the show gets bogged down in what it feels like it needs to be, and almost like the drama of the show. I think sometimes the drama can be a distraction from the fun. I think it's also hard because I think a lot of people, when they came into Batman Caped Crusader, really wanted Batman the Animated Series, and this is very much not that. Although it has a very similar look, obviously, it is a very different show, and it's definitely more for adults than I would say Batman the Animated Series was, in terms of who I would assume the target demographic is. And that isn't to say that Batman Caped Crusader couldn't be enjoyed by a younger audience, because I think it also could as well. But it definitely feels more mature. It's not afraid of the violence of Batman. It's not afraid of going to darker places, I think. It doesn't really go there enough for me for it to feel like this is what we're doing. And I understand it's a very different tone. And maybe that's also part of it is the animation. I'm not sure, but I feel like it's trying to walk this fine line, and sometimes that works against it. We also got a couple other characters that I really loved. Harleen, I really loved what they did with Harleen here. I really loved what they did with Renee. I am here for the Harleen and Renee ship, and I was so sad. I got to episode 5 and it was like the other shoe dropped for me in this show. Night of the Hunters was not as strong, but it built some stuff that I thought was really cool. Mostly the stuff, like I said, with Harleen and Renee that I really liked. Both them together and also them separately. I just feel like they did something unique with Harleen here that is kind of a direction that still feels very Harley Quinn, but it's just different. It's just interesting. I mean, what is Harley like when she doesn't have Joker? Where is the twisted part of her that exists without Joker? And I thought that was really cool to see her completely independent and yet still become this really fascinating villain. I also feel like, honestly, before everything went sideways, I was really hoping that Harleen, Renee, and Babs could be like this really fun like team up. Like I was like, maybe this is like our new Birds of Prey or our Gotham City Sirens. You know, if Harleen wasn't crazy, I feel like we could have gone there. Sadly, Harleen was crazy, so we couldn't go there. Or I mean, you know, there could be hope. I'm still hopeful that Harleen can be brought around. I mean, in the comics, she's definitely seen major redemption over her time there. So anything's possible, I guess, you know, depending on how many seasons we get. It might take some time, but maybe Harleen will be a hero. Also, shout outs to all the assistants in Batman Caped Crusader. Speaking of fun characters and characters that I really liked, we have Mr. Hastings with Harleen, who I really loved, Greta with Catwoman, and I hope Greta returns. The return of Greta needs to happen because I loved her so much. I also loved her just being like, yeah, I've sold all your stuff and I'm leaving because why would I stay here? And you haven't paid me in forever. Alfred, obviously with Batman, or Pennyworth as he's referred to here. I still really love Alfred here. I really love Pennyworth. I think I actually love Alfred more than I love Batman. Because Alfred is like trying to be Batman's conscience at times, and Batman is just like, for most of the show, having none of it. Something that is a very interesting dynamic that we also saw echoed, I feel like, in The Batman, which makes sense because Matt Reeves, I believe, is an executive producer on this show. I felt like there was definitely a lot of stuff here that felt very Matt Reeves. And there was also definitely a lot of stuff in this show that felt very Ed Brubaker, who I believe is the lead writer on Batman Caped Crusader. So there was stuff that I was like, I see where this is coming from. And sometimes it worked, and sometimes it made me wish that there were maybe some other people involved shaping this world. Alfred and Batman's relationship is kind of one of those. And I feel like in The Batman, we get this moment where we really see Robert Pattinson's Batman like come around and realize what Alfred means to him. And that was something that we kind of got here with the Gentleman Ghost, I guess, episode. But it wasn't as impactful. The way it was written, and maybe it's also a little bit of the voice acting. Although I do like Hamish Linklater as Batman, I think, in this. It could be a little bit of that too. There's just something missing. There's a little bit of an emotional connection that I feel like I'm missing with Batman and that I'm missing seeing with Batman and Alfred. But it could also just be that it's early on and that was the intention of the show, you know? They want season 1 to be a bit more disconnected, and then over time it's going to be a real slow burn for that. Might be a real slow burn. Going back to episode 5 for just a brief moment, I just want to say that I was so sad when Harleen broke Renee's heart, and it made me cry. That honestly is one of the strongest parts, I feel like, of this season for me, because I actually felt some kind of connection to the characters, and otherwise I was struggling to connect with some of the characters at times. So that was a really crazy moment, and it was also, you know, I mean, I think I see why people were saying, wait till you get till episode 5. I was like, yeah, I feel it. Also, Jamie Chung as Harleen, I gotta give some shout outs, because the vocal shift that we even see when Harleen, you know, becomes Harley, that shift is so distinct. And I really see why they were like, yeah, Jamie's the best person for this character. She really crushed it as Harleen. So props to her. There are some weird things in this show, like we see at the end of episode 5, where I feel like Batman sometimes feels weirdly invulnerable, especially for a show where it's supposed to be a period piece where he doesn't have the technology. That plot armor is real strong, and there's some things in this that I'm always like, wait, how's he getting through this? How's he gonna survive? And then he just pulls it off because he's Batman, I guess. Gentleman Ghost, let's get back to that episode. So I kind of touched on it a little bit when I was talking about Alfred and assistants, but Gentleman Ghost is a really fun episode, and honestly, it gave me Scooby-Doo vibes. And that's not a bad thing. I actually really enjoyed the Scooby-Doo vibes. I was also interested to see Papa McKnight here. McKnight coming in. I was like, whoa, that's interesting. I feel like McKnight is going to be more of a problem later on, and I'm kind of here for what we're building with him. I thought he was a really interesting character, and I can't wait to see where we go with him in later seasons. Also, Bruce chastising Pennyworth here. Like I said, this relationship between Batman and Alfred, I'm gonna keep coming back to it, but Bruce chastising Pennyworth in the Gentleman Ghost episode after he was just possessed, where he says, "You fool, what were you thinking?" And I know it's supposed to be because Batman cares about him. I get it. He's feeling emotions, and he's not good at communicating that. He's got this hard exterior. He's a tough guy. He's Batman. But that moment, I was so mad at him. I was like, how dare you? How dare you do this to Alfred? However, I am curious about this secret that they alluded to here that Alfred is keeping from Bruce and what that is going to be, and I think it'll be interesting to explore that. So we're building some cool things here between their relationship, but like I said, there's also just so many moments in this show where I was just mad at Batman or mad at Bruce for treating Pennyworth so meanly. Like, just so, he's so rude. Like, why is he so rude? Because he's rich. I get it, but I don't like it. Episode 7 was interesting because I felt like it actually tackled some heavy themes about this idea of punishment versus rehabilitation. And I would say from episode 7 on, we kind of build into that more and more with everything that happens with Two-Face later on, Harvey Dent. But yeah, I liked what it did. I feel like it didn't really go far enough. It was also interesting that I felt like at the end of the episode, it seemed like we ended on a note of punishment is better, which, I mean, I guess it doesn't really surprise me for this series in terms of the tone of the series, but I just felt like Barbara, you know, she did make some good points, but ultimately that's kind of what we come down to based on what we see here in this episode. I gotta say that Onomatopoeia was a character I was really excited for, and I don't really know if I liked him here. I just felt like he was a bit of a letdown. They didn't do enough with him. And I was hoping we're going to get more of like a backstory for him. Maybe we'll get that in later seasons, but he just felt like another hitman with like, he's a bit quirky. And I guess it's hard too because he is a modern character and we're putting him in this older setting. It is more of a past setting, not a time that he's initially from. But I feel like they didn't do a good enough job of making him fit here for me. So I like the design. I like that he's here, but I just wish we'd done more with him. There were some cool twists as well in this show, and I gotta say, for the story overall throughout the show, there was some stuff that I really liked, including in episode 7, where I was not expecting one of Gordon's guys to betray him, even though it's been alluded to throughout the episode. I just thought, like, these are the people that you can trust, and it's this whole idea of like just how intense the corruption is in Gotham. So I thought that was really cool. I mean, even Harleen becoming Harley, even though I figured it was coming, even that surprised me. It's really not so much what's happening, but the way that the story unfolds that I've enjoyed throughout in terms of the surprises that we got in this. Or even like the gentleman ghost actually being a ghost. Like that is a fun, cool twist. I also wasn't expecting the hit in episode 7 to be on Barbara. That was a cool twist too. There's a lot of cool twists in the show that I enjoyed that, yeah, kept me very interested, on the edge of my seat, and for that reason, I definitely think I'm going to be coming back to season 2. I'm excited to see where we go next with this. Episode 8 was not my favorite. This is the Nocturna episode, and why did they have to take out so many Robins? I know the Robins, you know, they didn't necessarily die, but I get it. We're not doing Robin. It just felt disrespectful. I felt like Robins were being disrespected left and right in this. At least Carrie Kelly got some things to do. I will say that. And I think they said they aren't doing a Robin in this, but I actually could see Carrie Kelly fitting in as a Robin if we do get one. I don't think it's going to happen, but we can pray. We can hope. Batman without Robin. It just feels a little weird. I get why some people don't like Robin for Batman, but I feel like it's important for the character. Also, why did Nocturna have to be a kid? I mean, it's fine, but I don't really like it. I think I don't like it because I just have this idea of Nocturna as almost like she's a femme fatale character, and I feel like that could have fit really well in this period, and so it's a bit of a missed opportunity for me. I mean, yeah, it was an interesting choice. It was a weird choice. I like the whole circus element. I'm just not sure how I feel about what they did with Nocturna here, or Robins. So most of the episode, yeah, I was like, okay, let's keep going. And then on the other side of things, I really loved episode 9. I thought it was a really cool episode. I loved the design choice for Two-Face, how his face is all like, has holes in it, or it's like pockmarked or whatever is happening with that. Oh, it's horrifying. And I just really love what they did with his character evolution here. It felt organic. Also, making Bruce kind of the one that pushed him over the edge was just such a brilliant choice, I feel like. I think it's really great because it helps us to advance Bruce's character, but it also kind of points out the things that I think most of us are feeling as we're watching this, that Batman's just kind of a jerk here. And I'm glad that he's finally having to look at himself in the mirror a little bit and be like, am I the problem? Hi, I'm the problem. It's me, Batman. I loved that there was some tension, Pennyworth calling him out for it, and then Bruce having to reconcile with that. I just thought that was all really well done. You know, although to be fair to Batman, I feel like Harvey probably would have gone there anyways, but was he pushed a little bit? Yes, but I think he would have gone there anyways, ultimately, just based on what happened to him and based on his life and the way he views everything. Which is why with episode 10, I understood what they did with Harvey and with Two-Face, although I feel like I'm a little sad. I did want it to kind of keep going. I just feel like Two-Face is such a cool character and they built so many cool things with Harvey. There was more that we could have done with him. But episode 10 ultimately feels very cinematic. I liked that element of it. The end of Harvey Dent's story also feels like the beginning of Batman's, which is kind of cool. The moment with the gun was tense, where Batman has the gun and there's that question of, is he going to shoot? And I feel like it was a good culmination moment where the whole season is kind of building to that moment where this Batman feels very different from a sort of a modern Batman, and we almost don't know what's going to happen there. Ultimately, he rejects the gun, which felt very Batman, but there was tension for me. I didn't know what was going to happen, and I liked that about it. So even though this characterization for me is wonky, I will say it worked well for what they were building there. Like I said, I understand why they're doing it. For me, I don't know if it's my kind of Batman. But that's okay. I'm sure it's other people's kind of Batman. And honestly, I'm still enjoying the storytelling elements and some of the character evolution stuff we're building here. I just wish there was a little bit more. That's all. And while I am sad that we've lost Harvey because I feel like there was so much more we could have done with that character, I kind of like the permanent feeling in some of these stories where it feels like some characters are like gone for good. However, I am excited for when everybody escapes prison and then they're all set loose again, because we know that's coming, I'm pretty sure. Although I felt the story was too short, I did feel like Harvey Dent was handled really well in this, just in terms of his evolution and his arc in this season. But I'm not sure how I feel about the Joker tease at the end. It seems like they're doing something very different, but also similar to canon with the Joker. And I could see it going either way. I could see it going the way of me really disliking it. I could see it going the way of me really loving it. I could see it being too similar. I could see it being, I don't know if too different is possible here. I think I want it to be different. So I hope that we continue with that sense that I was getting, and it's not too similar to the Joker that we already have. Just because I feel like Joker always kind of feels like he's being overdone. So when you do the Joker, I think you really have to do something interesting and dynamic with him for me to not feel like, oh, here we go again. I love the Joker, but I don't know. It's hard to make him interesting sometimes just because so much has been done with him, I guess. I'm both curious and nervous for the future of this show. It's been somewhat of a hit or miss for me, so I'm intrigued and I'm a little scared. But I think that's also maybe how I want to feel going into season 2, honestly. I'll also say that the character evolution for Batman, while I thought from episode 1 that that's what we were doing with this and that's why he was so intense early on, is because we're going to see a softening of Batman here. We're going to see him learn things and open up and evolve as a character. There are some choices in this at the end that I just didn't feel like were as earned. Like even Batman deciding like, I'm not going to use the gun. I didn't really feel that that was a choice that fully made sense. I thought Batman was going to use force here. I thought this is a forceful Batman and I don't know if he's learned enough or evolved enough to discard this. And yet that was the choice we made. So I just would have loved to see those building blocks a little bit more to that moment. I think it makes sense based on what they were setting up, but like I said, it's an emotional connection. There's not as much of an emotional payoff here for every beat to connect to each other. I also feel like I didn't see his exterior melt enough throughout the series or see him connect enough with Alfred to decide that he's going to now call him Alfred instead of Pennyworth and make that distinction and make that change. I get that it could be connected to the fact that also like Harvey is gone. I get where it could come from. I just don't see the connections as much, I guess. Overall, I liked it, but I think I have to give this one a 3 out of 10 because although I liked it, there was some stuff that was really just didn't work for me. And a big part of the stuff that didn't work was related to Batman. And it is Batman Caped Crusader. He's literally the main character of the show. And yet I liked more of the side characters quite a bit more than Batman. I hope that we continue to see an evolution of the character. I hope that we go to some cool places, and I am interested to see what they do with other characters that they bring into this and characters that we've already introduced and where their stories will go. I think it can be a really cool show, but I think it needs a little bit more time to cook. So hopefully they take a little bit of time with season 2, we get something that's really polished, and we get something that feels like it's not just exciting and interesting, but that it also has more heart to it. Because I just feel like, while this is a cool idea, there's a lot of cool elements, a lot of heart is missing from the show in terms of your connection to it as a viewer, or at least my connection to it as a viewer. I just wasn't as emotionally connected to a lot of the big elements, a lot of the big characters of the show. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. I did enjoy it though. I will be back for season 2. Let me know what you're thinking. Let me know what you're thinking of Batman here, what you're thinking of the other characters. Did you like these villains? Did you like Penguin? Were you here for Penguin? Are you a Penguin fan? And are you a massive Penguin fan? What was your take on it? Let me know. I've heard from some people, and I feel like the massive Penguin fans that I have heard from or heard of have mostly said that they felt like it was weird too. So yeah, but I want to hear what you think. And you know, I'm sure there's someone out there that's super here for Lady Penguin, and that's fine. I don't mind that she's a lady even. I feel like the whole look, the voice, there's just some stuff, it just feels disjointed. So hopefully we iron out those kinks next time Penguin shows up. That's all I have for this one, friends. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, stay nerdy. Bye!